Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Keys to the Streets. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all know, as always, we're talking about the culture locally, globally, all those things, guests, current events. And today, I have a special guest on, Miss LaCarsha Miles-Bloxson. Hey, Miles.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on with me. Miles is a mogul in the making. She got her own radio show. She's over at KUTX and just doing so many amazing things. So can you talk a little bit about what you do, LaCarsha? Sorry, Miles.
Either way, it doesn't matter. It's fine. But yeah, so I work on a few podcasts over at KUT and KUTX. The main one that I have right now is I produce Black Austin Matters, which just came out in January. That's where we highlight Black Austinites and Black people in Central Texas, which is great and it's fun. And I'm from Austin, so I love that aspect of it. And then I also host and produce a podcast called Pause Play, which is about the live music scene, why it matters, and what comes next.
So we definitely have a unicorn on today because you said you're from Austin and you're still in Austin. Like, what can you talk about your journey? Have you always been here? Have you moved around?
Absolutely. So born and raised here, like I said, 2-1. Shout out to 2-1. Loverville Road. But yeah, so I went to Pecan Springs, I went to Pierce, and I went to LBJ. I was in the Science Academy. And then after I graduated from there, I went to PV for like 1 year. And then I was like, I miss Austin. So I ended up going to the University of Texas and graduated in 2007. And I actually enrolled in this program where you could study in LA for a semester. So I kind of got like my taste of the entertainment world, like entertainment news and different types of things like that. I interned for the Ellen Degeneres show, the Tyra Banks show. So I found myself doing a lot of interviews with celebrities and red carpet things. And I just wanted a little bit more. So I was like, let me move back home because I feel like Austin is a real place that has real people. Cali's fun and it's cool, but the people are just not as genuine as the people in Texas. So what can I say? Like, home brought me back. And after actually being at KZI for a year or two, I ended up getting a job at KUT and KUTX, working for them.
Oh, wow. So I hope y'all heard that, Californians. If you're moving to Texas, we real, we laid back. And if you gonna come to our state, you gonna come to our city, like...
Stop honking at us.
Okay.
We at
Don't come for our Texas. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Exactly. We need 5 extra seconds at the light. We're not both in the rush. You are in the rush. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel. But anyway.
And while we're a Pierce pirate, and you know, I'm a Dobie Roadrunner.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
It's cool though. I forgive you because you went to LBJ and you were in the, you were in Lhasa. I was in Lhasa too. So it's cool. We had different paths, but we both ended up in the same place.
Okay, well, I have to tell you though, I don't have any hatred in my heart against you Roadrunners because my mom went to Dobie, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. So, I love everybody.
As long as you know where home's at.
Okay. I'm going to let you have that.
No, I'm just messing, Miles. It's so funny because we were talking earlier how the middle school rivalry of Dobie and Pierce is probably more serious than the high school rivalry of LBJ and Reagan. It's so funny when we all ended up in the same high schools together anyway.
Facts, yes. Keep going. Keep it up.
But like I said, I wanted to thank you so much for just taking the time. I know we're at different radio stations, so it's so funny. I'm here at KZI, but I work with everybody, connect with everyone, and network with everyone. But it is a place, and it's a space for everybody to eat in Austin. And that's one of the things I always try and showcase with my show, that everybody eats beef, and it's so cool to tell everyone's story, to connect with everyone. But can you talk a little bit about, some of the shows that you're doing? I know you said Pause Play and Black Austin Matters, and I've caught a couple of episodes of Black Austin Matters, but can you talk about just what, made it come to fruition and how that happened?
Yeah, so one of the professors actually sent out a tweet. I think it was Dr. Rich Reddick. He sent out a tweet saying, we should do a show based on Black Austin, and does Black Austin really matter? And so he, at the end of the day, he waited, and then Dr. Lisa B. Thompson responded to the tweet, and then I think that she actually forwarded the tweet or, retweeted KUTR, our editor at KUT, which is the other producer of Black Austin Matters, and he decided to take on the project. And when I heard about it at work, I was like, how can I not be a part of something that is about my hometown and that highlights the Black people in my hometown? And there is a lot of spaces where we can all eat, but there's not a lot of spaces where our voices are heard. And I think that's so important, to amplify our voices as much as possible so that people really see what Austin is made up of. You know what I mean? So I'm just blessed to be in that space to where I have the ability to help highlight those voices and amplify those voices for other people to hear them, and to know that, we're still here. Us Black people, we're still here in Austin. People, we're still here. We didn't go anywhere. So I'm just excited about that.
I have been following Dr. Lisa B. Thompson's work, and I've never officially met her. I was at her opening of DOT, and it was amazing. And it's so funny because she was a professor at some school in New York that one of my mentors went to. And so that was kind of how I first heard about her years ago. And then to see her, directorial debut, and then also to see her coming to Austin and really helping tell the story of Austin as well. Can you talk about some of your favorite episodes thus far that you've been able to produce?
Absolutely. One of my favorite episodes is probably the Chaz Moore episode. I feel like it, in true Chaz fashion, he definitely said things that needed to be said, unapologetically, which I love when we are truly authentically ourselves and we have the conversations that we have with each other in front of others that are not people of color. Sometimes they need to hear, the honesty and the vulnerability in those conversations in order to actually rethink or, reprogram their brains to be on the same page as us and just understand where we're coming from. So I would say that was one of my favorite episodes. And we also just dropped the episode last month. It's the end of May, but this month with educator Joseph Freela, which is also a really, really good episode. But to be honest, it's really hard to choose because there's some episodes that haven't came out yet that we've already taped, like Riders Against the Storm, which is coming soon. And that episode was also amazing, but it's not out yet, so I can't tell you much about it.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for the sneak peek. And you're so right. I think it's so important that we continue to have these conversations because, especially with mixed company, because I think we have the conversations, but in silos. White people might talk about racism amongst, one another. And then Black people talk about it all the time. It's a part of our life. And so I think we're talking about it, but the people that need to hear it and need to make the changes and need to understand one another very seldomly are in the same rooms.
Exactly.
So like you said, those conversations, those things need to be said. And I do appreciate Chaz and Dr. Lisa B. Thompson and not really watering it down. Like, you're going to get it how you get it. And I think that's so important because we always feel that we have to diminish ourselves a lot of times in mixed company. And it's there is a lane for every type of Black person. And you need to understand that we are not monolithic, that we all have different views, and you take the time to build and get to know everyone. Everybody else can be every other facet and shade and type of self, but Black people are almost always assumed to be exactly alike and have the same experiences.
And we are so different. Like, we all bring something so different to the table. And I feel like that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of our greatness. Once we realize our own greatness, there's nothing that can stop us. But each person individually has to change their mindset and adjust the way that they see their lives and the way that they, experience life in general in order to change that mindset. So it's really up to us to make the biggest change.
I absolutely agree. So, for anyone who might want to listen to Black Austin Matters, where can they tune into that? Where and when?
You can go to KUTX.studio and check it out, or you can go to KUT.org, or you can go to KUTX.org, or wherever you get your podcast.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, for your next podcast, you have Pause Play. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so Pause Play actually was an idea from our music program director. His name is Matt Riley, so shout out to him. He actually came up with the concept during COVID. And when it first started, it was about, the live music capital of the world, a global pandemic, and what comes next. Because we didn't know we were going to bounce back from this pandemic, the Austin music scene, right? Because,
Right.
a lot of musicians didn't have the money that they needed to survive during the pandemic. Some of them had to pick up additional, income from anywhere that they possibly could. There was money out there. There still is money out there, and people are accessing it. But it's kind of never enough sometimes. You know what I mean? And I honestly, during the process of the first season of Pause Play, I started thinking like we really do take our music scene in Austin for granted, and we didn't have anything put in place. So when the pandemic hit, it was kind of like a mad scramble to figure out how the venues are going to get money, how the artists were going to get money, how the promoters were going to get money. It was just so up in shambles. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think that that's something that we all learned. And I think the thing that we have to think about is that without live music in Austin, what does Austin even look like?
Absolutely.
And I think people really need to focus in on the fact that if we lose live music, we essentially lose a large piece of Austin. So we just can't take it for granted. So this podcast really highlights, the struggles of the pandemic. And then, it also highlights the different parts that happened after we came out of the pandemic. Then we went back into it. So there was a lot of back and forth for a long time. But now, like, we're on the other side. And so we're now discussing, live music, why it matters and what happens next. Just kind of bringing up why live music is so important to Austin and how we can do a better job supporting the music ecosystem that lives here in Austin.
Absolutely. Like you said, just speaking to the live music culture, we're the live music capital of the world. And so the pandemic really made us look at what the struggling artist was and how important it is to have artists here. And like you said, historically, Black, brown, and white people have not always agreed, and it's been tension. And we know, just like the plan as far as the 1928 plan and things like that have created decades of tension. But one thing we could always agree on was music, and that was in the culture everywhere. And so when the pandemic hit, we essentially had that threat of losing that. And I think it really made us look at how important is it for us to be able to keep our creatives in Austin. If something like this happens, how do they survive? Because that impacts the culture from a bottom line type perspective, like you said, to the venues, to ACL, to South by. Of course, we have the argument of tech companies coming in and taking over festivals, but at the heart of it, it's still music. So if you lose that, what do you really have here? And so it's so good that, you and Matt were able to put that together. And shout out to Matt. I'm collaborating with Matt and KUTX on Summer Jam. KZI is. So we're really excited to just be, closing the gap and really building that connection with KUT and KUTX. But like you said, that is so important.
It's so important. I also want to give a shout out to my co-host, Elizabeth McQueen. Could not do it without her. It was actually like, Matt was definitely the brainchild, but Elizabeth was the first host that he brought on. And after a while, he told her, like, maybe you should work with Miles on this. And then she reached out to me and added me to the project, after they had already had a lot of conversations about it. So I'm just blessed to have, been invited into the room in that space. And so
Absolutely.
Just wanted to mention that.
Absolutely. It's always important to show love and show those who are opening doors for people, because that really just builds your network, it builds your resume, and it really just helps you grow. So for Pause Play, which have been some of your favorite past episodes that you can tell us about, of course?
I mean, like, for Pause Play, we've done 3 seasons, which went by so freaking fast. So that's like 30 episodes. Let's see. Okay, so we did a housing and affordability episode, and I feel like that really touched a lot of people because it really talks about the realization of where can artists live. Like, if people in the tech industry and people in these great positions, some of them can't afford, some stuff, then what do you think the musicians are dealing with, right? So that's kind of when we brought affordability to the forefront. in how musicians are struggling just as much as somebody that works in the business world or the tech world in an entry level position. Like if you're making, let's be honest, if you're making like 60 or 70, it's still a struggle to live here in Austin. You know what I mean? Like I think the average income right now is like $90,000. It's something crazy. And the average house is almost like $500,000. So it's just something that we have to constantly talk about to ensure that we are able to house our creatives. So I would say that was one of my favorite episodes because we really talked about how important it is for us to already start thinking about how we can house our creatives and keep them here in Austin. Because if they don't stay here, how long are they going to drive 3 hours to do a gig here and then have to drive back to Houston?
Right. And then we don't even talk about what we're paying artists. So
yeah, all that stuff. And then the gas prices right now, like you add gas prices to the fuel, what we're paying artists, the affordability in Austin, like somebody has had to move out. Multiple people probably have had to move out over the course of even the last 30 days. Like we just don't know where they are in life. And I think that we just need to start thinking about people outside of ourselves and outside of our family and really think about like, what are we losing if we lose creatives from like in Austin?
You're absolutely right. What are we losing if we lose creatives? What are we losing if we lose Black people? What are we losing if we lose East Austin? Like, what are we losing with the affordability that's really happening here? While, of course, I have so much fun on Keys to the Streets, you know, by day I gotta make my money. And I work at the City of Austin in their Cultural Arts division. And we are essentially doing nothing but ARPA relief. So we're doing just aid and relief packages to creatives, to, you know, low income families. And these are the things that we're talking about all the time. What does it look like, you know, 1 year out? What does it look like 4 years out? And we're always running tests and having dashboards. And there are so many artists that have moved out to Manor, Pflugerville, but a lot of them are moving out to Killeen, are moving out to Bastrop and Buda because of the difference in the cost of living. And even in working in some festivals, I've been helping on like the entertainment for projects, and I'm having to contact artists. And these are artists that lived on the east side that I knew, you know, 5-10 years, and now they're in Killeen. And now I'm thinking, and they're having or wanting to negotiate, okay, what is my travel now? Are you at least going to cover gas? And I'm like, dang, like those are so many different things we didn't have to think about before. And as times change, we have to continue to do that. I think it was around 5 years ago where in Austin, if you made between like $60,000 and $70,000, you were living well. Like you were living, you know, you were pretty good off. You weren't necessarily paycheck to paycheck. Now you might not be able to go buy you a BMW, but your bills are paid and you got a little bit in your savings. Now $60,000 to $70,000 is below the cost of living in Austin, essentially. And that's just a difference of 5 years. So like you said, Miles, we have to continue to think about all these different perspectives, because just because we're okay now, that doesn't mean that a lot of other people are. And with it being a grab for space, especially Black space, there's a lack of Black spaces. And so now I find so many people, because I also do business consulting, so many looking to partner with other Black creatives and entrepreneurs to share space, because the rent's so high right now, they can afford it with just their business. So they're looking at different ways to create different revenue streams, to create passive income and revenue. Like if I'm not using my building, can somebody else use it? Can I bring some food trucks out here in the parking lot? Can we have some vendor markets? And they're having to get even more innovative in how they're using their space and networking and connecting with each other. So thank you, you know, just so much for touching on that, Miles. Like, yeah, I just appreciate the work that you're doing at KUT and KUTX, because it's so important to tell these stories. And let's be honest, it's not the most diverse space. So I know, you know, you're bumping heads at times. Of course you have support, but you still have to fight sometimes for your voice to be heard as a Black woman. So thank you so much for taking on that cause and doing that, because we need that. It's needed in the community.
And I mean, shout out to KUT and KUTX. I'm very lucky to be in a space to where my voice is heard and people do value my opinion. And I'm told that I'm told that on like a weekly basis. So I'm definitely affirmed at work. It's comfortable environment. And it's amazing to be around, different types of people that also want to hear about your journey, want to hear about your experiences, and value your opinion as well.
Absolutely. I have not met a lot of people over at KUT and KUTX outside of Confucius, Fresh, yourself, and Matt. But I'm always surprised when I meet with Matt because Matt, like, Keys, what you got to say? I'm like, what? Nobody be asking me what I usually have to interject or interrupt in order to have, and he's like, oh, well, what do you think? I'm like, what? Okay, well, this is what I think, and it like you said, it is cool to be heard. And so I know that is probably even more so the case being at KUTX and me just being a partner, I'm able to be heard. So shout out to your team over there doing great work. Because like I said, it's definitely needed. Now, back to you, Miles. Back to Miles the mogul, because she moving and shaking in these streets. You hosting, you got gigs, you out here. So your next hosting event this June. Can you talk about that?
Oh, can I talk about it?
Can you shed some light on that?
Are we talking about the Soul Food Truck Fest?
Yes, Soul Food Truck Fest. Are you excited?
I'm so excited to be a part of something that's in like the heart of East Austin, and it's at HT. My grandmother went to HT before it was like HT, so this is like my history full circle. But yeah, Soul Food Truck Fest is a celebration of the Juneteenth weekend, and it includes music, fun, family, health. And of course, there's going to be a lot of food there. You don't want to miss it. It's 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday, June 18th at Houston-Tillotson University. So I'm super excited to be there, to be in the house, to have all of the food. I'm a foodie. So I'm going to y'all probably going to have to find me at some point. Be like, hey, you're still hosting, because I'm probably going to be eating some.
Okay, Miles, I need you back on stage, girl. Put the burger down 1 second.
I'm going to be like, I was over there having a burger. Shout out to the burger club in the back. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, anytime we can just be in East Austin as a whole, Black people, and just in large numbers, it just does something for my soul, because it just makes me think about how my grandmother gathered with her friends, you know what I mean, when she was growing up. And I know
chilling on campus, kikiing with the girls.
If I could just see into her world at that time, that would be amazing. But I know that she's smiling down at me and okay, let's do this, let's take over. So, I'm just excited about the opportunity. I'm so blessed that Mr. Creech invited me to help co-host the event. So I can't wait.
Yes, shout out to Heath Creech, who put together Soul Food Truck Fest. This will be, I think, the third one. I was able to be a part of the 2019 one, and then, of course, it was a pause due to the pandemic. But they're coming back, and they're coming back strong, and I've been collaborating with them on the entertainment side. So we have a cool little lineup that I think, showcases Austin, but also brings, some other vibes out to the city. So can you talk a little bit about, the entertainment, the lineup?
Yeah, so Polo the Vibe, super dope. Amira Soul, I've had the pleasure of meeting her a few times and writing pieces on her. There's just a lot of dope people. Infinity Jones and the Cosmic Frost. I'm just excited to see these acts. The Hamiltons, come on. What else do you need here?
Okay. I'm really excited about the Hamiltons. I think they now are calling themselves the Tones, formerly known as Hamiltons.
Right,
I guess, some type of Prince type thing. But I'm excited about the Hamiltons and Anastasia, Hera, and the Heroes. They always put on a good show. So I think it's really cool that we're bringing trucks in places from as far as Houston and Dallas. So to bring in Polo the Vibe out of Dallas, Amira Soul, while she's been in Austin, a couple years making her rounds. She's from Houston. She definitely reps the H. So to have, some of those bands come out, as well as local Austin-based bands, I think that's just going to be a really cool vibe. And as far as food trucks, I am so excited for Fat Ho Burger. Yes.
What is the name again?
It's Fat Ho Burger. So have you not? So did you not hear Fat Ho Burger?
No. I have not, but I will be at that truck.
Girl, yes. So let me tell you about Fat Ho Burger. I remember back at Baylor, you know, I'm aging myself, but I went to Baylor from 2007 to 2011. Right? I think it was maybe like 2009, 2010. We kept hearing, you know, we had some friends, they may not have went to Baylor, but we had friends all over. And they like, oh, you know, Fat Ho open. And we like, what the heck is Fat Ho?
Oh,
and so we didn't believe it because Baylor was pretty big about, you know, campus students being within our Baylor bubble. And then, you know, so we didn't really go outside of that. And then I think it was maybe Media Takeout or Shade Room where Fat Ho Burger popped up and they said it was in Waco. And me and my friends are like, what? What is this? So we had to go, girl. So we took a trip of like 15, 20 students and went over to this, I don't even know. It was like a restaurant in a house, but it wasn't even a house, girl.
Oh my God.
It was a real, you know, hood activity, do-rag activity type of situation. And we loved it. Like, they didn't even have a back of the house. They had like a clothesline that had a sheet over it. And when I tell you, the burgers were amazing. But, you know, they got shut down because, you know, cool, it happens. But 10 years later, Fat Ho got a food truck, girl. And the food, it looks the same. And so I've like reached out to my Baylor friends and I was like, did y'all know Fat Ho got a burger? Like, they got a food truck now. So we've literally been talking about taking a whole trip in like a mini like class reunion at this food truck. So to see that Seoul Food Truck Fest has Fat Ho Burger, like, I'm so excited. And I don't even know if I'm able to even say the name or it's on radio. So y'all gotta look up the menu because I definitely can't say the menu items, but
oh my goodness.
It's so fun. And it really gives me like this, you know, the feel like the slutty vegan vibes. So it's definitely an experience, right? It's definitely cultured. It's definitely for us, by us. So yeah, I'm excited for Fat Ho Burger. Of course, that's the only one I'm gonna announce because I made sure they had to get in that one. But I'm gonna, you know, y'all check out just Soul City, because on Soul City they'll be having all of the announcements of the acts, of other surprises that will be happening. But yeah, just excited for that. Excited for how the community came together. We'll have Dr. Colette Pierce Burnett, and District 1 Councilwoman Natasha Harper Madison. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a vibe. Music, fun, health, everything. What you thinking, Miles?
I'm thinking it's gonna be an entire vibe. And I mean, like, Austinites are going to be there. So who doesn't want to be where the unicorns are? I mean, it's always magical when they link up. So
right, exactly.
I'm just saying. So.
And we're doing a giveaway today for 3 judges tickets. Can you tell us? Right, woo woo. So what comes with the judges tickets?
Okay, so number 1, you get 11 a.m. early entry. So that means if you like the food truck that Miss Keys keeps talking about, you can go there. I'm not going to say the name because you already know the name.
Yeah, they're probably going to edit this out.
You get samples from all the trucks, and you get 2 drink tickets, and you get to vote for your favorite truck. I mean, my biggest perk right here is samples from all the trucks. You know what I mean? Like, you might not be able to leave. I don't know. You might need a ride home if you get one of these tickets. I'm just saying.
Right, because you definitely going to have the itis. The itis will be in full effect.
Yeah, you might start seeing stuff. I don't know. Like, that's a lot of food. I'm not liable. I just want to say that. But, you know, we got a little giveaway. You might want to call. You might want to do something.
Yes, so for general admission, the doors open at 1 p.m. However, if you are a judge, you get that early admission from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I think they will be submitting, you get to vote, and that'll be between 1 to 2. So yeah, for our judges, you got to come early. So in order to win this, I'm giving away 3 pair. You have to go to Soul City's website and tell me at least one thing. You can DM me on Twitter. You can DM me on IG at Airless, HEIR_LESS, or hit me up on Facebook and let me know what your favorite part of Soul Food Truck Fest so far is going to be. And that is for a pair of judges tickets, so you and a +1, because who really likes to eat alone? Come on now.
Nobody likes to eat alone. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
like, I'm gonna eat regardless, but it's a little bit more fun when I got somebody to talk to.
Exactly. I'm just saying, when the TV's on, I'm by myself. I'm cool with that. Like,
right, you need somebody to take a picture of you buying your burger, though. Like,
That's right. You're right.
But yes, y'all check that out. And in true honor of the the Tones, formerly the Hamiltones, we're going to be dropping some of their music today. But I just want to thank you so much, Miles, for coming on today, telling us all the things that you're doing and got in play. And if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yes, they can find me at milestomogul.com, or they can find me at milestomogul on Instagram. I am dropping a new podcast called Miles to Mogul, so look out for that. And that's me interviewing up and coming moguls and finding out like what really it takes to be successful, their mental mindset. So if you're into stuff like that, hit me up. If you're a prospective mogul, hit me up. But Miles to Mogul on all platforms, and that's MILESTOMOGUL.
Thank you again for coming on to Keys to the Street, Miles. Can't wait to see you at Soul Food Truck Fest. Thank y'all for tuning in. As always, like I said, y'all can hit me up at Airless, HEIR_LESS on Twitter or IG. And yeah, y'all keep tuning into Keys to the Streets at KZI. Thank you, and y'all have a great day.
Thank you.